visitors.
Right, the next one is in the Franklin Manor. Let's see. The Lantern Man. Eleanor Franklin has written a story for Danny's compilation. Read the story and authenticate it. Is there any story on this island that isn't true?
Maybe. Let's find out.
Yeah. The Lantern Man. How was it you pronounced it? Dufresne?
Dufresne.
Dufresne. The Dufresne boy was here earlier, dropping off the newspaper, he claimed, but he normally doesn't linger around. I invited him in, and he clearly wanted to ask me something. I thought it might be something about Ed, so I tried to put his mind at ease by offering him tea and candy. That just made him more nervous. Eventually he told me what he wanted. A ghost story. What about Solomon Island? This mansion has plenty of ghosts, but those stories are a little too personal to be shared. But I do remember one story that would probably work well in his book. It took place over a long time ago, and like all good stories, it starts with love. Eleanor Franklin. The proposal had been accepted and the families were in agreement. That spring, Samuel Town was to marry Scarlett Piedmont. It was no surprise to anybody else on Solomon Island. The two families had held neighboring farms for decades, and sweet Scarlett and strapping young Samuel had been walking out together for months. Solomon Priest was going to officiate, and all over the island, as the snow and darkness of winter set in, men began carving furniture for wedding gifts, and women began sewing dresses to wear to the celebration. A wedding in spring was always a good omen for the year. Samuel felt like a blessed man. His world overflowed with happiness. Everywhere he went, he was greeted with smiles and congratulations. And Scarlett, beautiful Scarlett, was everything he could hope for. She made him happy, and he hoped that he could do the same for her. But then the pox came to Solomon Island. It was winter, and most people were locked up tight in their houses. Still, it seemed to spread through closed doors and solid walls. People began to whisper about a black rider who trotted along the snowy streets, throwing handfuls of plague dust into chimneys. But that is another story, and needn't concern this one. Right, just keep that in mind. Plague rider, right, not important. Jeez. By the by, Scarlett got the pox. Her beautiful skin became covered in lumps. Her face became a ruin, her eyes sunken, swollen, and her mouth torn apart by the angry pustules which seemed to spring from every pore. And yet she recovered from the disease, scarred and disfigured, but still alive, and she was still engaged to be wed in the spring. She demanded that her parents keep her betrothed away, lest he catch sight of her. Samuel beat at their door day and night, demanding to see his beloved, but turned her away, pleading more time for Scarlett to recover from her illness. As the winter passed, she sought out all manner of cures for her disfigurements, sending to New York for medical advice. She nearly begged his father of buying fake cures from every snake-oil salesman and charlatan that passed by. Then she grew desperate and sought out the local shaman. The Wabanaki had been devastated by the smallpox, and she came to visit this shaman in the ruins of what had once been a great settlement. Among the ruins of his people, she asked if he could cure her beauty. He gestured to the piles of rotting corpses that had once been his right. My sons will never hunt again, and my daughters will never sing by the campfire at night. My grandchildren will never laugh and run. And you ask only for beauty. Are you not happy with your life? My beauty is my life, Scarlett replied quite earnestly. I would gladly pay any price to make my skin smooth again. The shaman gave Scarlett a small flask and told her to rub the liquid within onto her skin. She would get what she wished for. She left him to his grieving. That night she heated snow in a giant iron pot and poured a bath. She washed herself thoroughly and then uncapped the flask and rubbed it into her skin. Started with her arms and breast and then her face. A tingling warmth began to radiate from the place where she had rubbed the ointment. Using a cloth, she rubbed at the skin of her arms, and the pox-scarred skin sloughed away, revealing a layer of shining new skin beneath. Scarlett began to cry, great sobs of joy which shook her entire being. She cried out to her mother, and the father came rushing into the room. "Look at me!" she cried. "I am beautiful!" Her mother screamed and covered her eyes. Her father, hand-trembling, pointed towards the large full-length mirror in this corner, and Scarlett turned to look. Scarlett had become Scarlett in truth. The acid in the flask had eaten away the skin from her arms and chest, and her face, her once beautiful face, was melting into ruinous goo. She screamed and fled the house into the night. Later they followed her trail. The pitter-patter of her blood on the snow led them into the moonbog, a treacherous place to walk at any time of the year. They followed her trail right up to the point where the ice was cracked, as if something heavy had fallen through. After that, there was no trail to follow. The community was devastated, and a memorial was held. Solomon Priest himself said a few words, but Samuel Town wasn't buying any of it. He didn't believe she was dead. How could she be? After all, she spoke to him every night. She would come just outside his window and talk to him through a crack in the curtains. He knew her voice, and even though he never saw her face, he knew it was his beloved Scarlett. Samuel became a shut-in, never leaving his room. He grew pale and drawn, his parents worried about him. Abruptly, a week before the date originally scheduled for the wedding, Samuel began to return to his old self. He gathered flowers in the fields, ate heartily, and joked with his family, and even washed and pressed his old suit. On what would have been the night of the wedding, he retired to his bedroom early. His parents, relieved by the apparent change of the past week, were happy to let him go. And in the night, they heard the door of the house open, and came downstairs to see Samuel back towards them, walking off into the moonbog with a lantern held high. He did not turn back when they cried out after him. And when they returned to his room, they found his eyeballs, tongue, and the skin of his face lumped in a bloody mess on the floor. It is said that he never found her out there among the pools of the moonbog, but that he looked still, searching by the light of his lantern for the face of the woman he loved.
Wow.
Creepy sweet. Let's move on.
Yeah. You know, I'm pretty sure if the man loved her this much, he would have accepted her face, and that's probably the darkest part of it all.
Yeah. Irony!
Yeah. That he loved her so much, he would probably have accepted her anyway. It was her who could not accept herself. Kinda sad. Right, the moonbog. Well, that's simple enough. That's right down here. Down by the tentacles. Search the moonbog for the lantern, man. Ah, Contaminator. You've seen us. I mean, you don't pluck your eyes out for a girl you don't love. Let alone your tongue and skin too. Right, okay, so we're probably looking for a light of some kind.
There's something over there. Look! Over here, by me. Look! Over there in the distance.
I see it!
Yeah, that must be him.
The fool's light.
Good eyes, Rana.
No problem. Oh dear!
But first we'll have to deal with this. Oh crap! What the hell? The Lantern Man!
The Revenant?
Yeah, well, grief and sorrow.
Apparently that's what he eventually turned into. Right.
Let's leave before we
Right, there should probably be a piece of lore out here if it's anything like the others. So let's look for that too. Ah, I found it. Oh, here where the light was. Ow, oh crap. Okay, and I say we get up on dry land before we read anything, okay?
Right.
Whoop. Okay, this away.
Behind us! End the thing.
Yeah, no, that's what we're waiting for him to pass. He's got way of rights. Or right of ways, as it actually
Hey,
calls.
maybe it's Anderson.
Hey, having fun?
So
Alright, he's passed. Green light, go, and everything.
look out!
Watch out! Violent infected.
Yes, because the also is not violent type, I guess.
Yeah, we did ponder that when we were first around here.
Calm down, Logan.
Oh dear.
Ah, fudge, those freaking things. You know what? Insidious Shade? That's a very fitting name, actually. These things are insidious and freaking annoying as all hell. Alright. Now, I'll start with the lore. Once upon a time, a story started with love. Then the Black Rider came. Love was covered over in pox and lumps and pustules. Good fortune is sometimes ugly. The dead do not take kindly when the living beg for beauty. Sometimes vanity smells like sizzling flesh.
Wow.
That was by far the scariest thing I have heard in years! That poor girl! She trusted that man and he gave her acid disguised as cosmetics? The Big Five only used to do that to pigs and monkeys. I think the Templars still do rent out their chained Rakshasa for cosmetic testing. Imagine a room full of those faces made up like Martha Stewart. Great, I'm due for a skin peel later on. And now all I'm going to think about is Martha Stewart.
Wow, your boss sure is...
Now with these ladies.
Yeah.
Well, at least she showed some sort of sympathy this
Your
time.
boss sure is caring.
Well, she showed at least some sort of sympathy this time. Even it's only superficial sympathy. Also, seriously, the Templars rent out their demon body bags for cosmetic testing?
That I have no idea if that is true.
I'm...
This, I think I will have to question Sonic about that one.
Jeez, that's something.
Our models are capable of predicting the end of any relationship to a high degree of accuracy. We can tell when couples are going to break up. We can tell when marriages are reaching their end. And we can even tell when a partner is cheating, just by feeding their personality variables into our models. Until now, our models likely could not have predicted this end to a relationship. This is good new information to feed them.
Wow, our bosses are certainly being nice people as well.
And not only that, the Illuminati managed to show more sympathy than the Dragon in this case. Just saying. Point goes to my team.
I don't know if you're going to say that your boss showed sympathy.
Empathy, concern, condolences. She at least showed more something than yours.
Okay, yeah. I'll give you that. Rana?
Right. I've always felt there is something terribly confusing in stories where men and women mutilate themselves in the name of true love. It doesn't serve vanity, it just seems to me to be rank stupidity. After all, how would disfiguring oneself make one's partner feel any better about their own disfigurement? What sort of partner would demand that? Still, this is a story you heard from a woman who stays in a mansion to be with her dead husband. Such people have strange notions of love.
Point taken.
Yeah, you know what? Out of all the three reports, you actually like the one from Rama's boss the most.
Yeah, he showed sympathy.
He has a really good point here, actually.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm just gonna read about our next destination. Be right back.